Hey guys, my name's Thomas, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to paint the M1911 from Backyard Blasters, and basically show you how to make it for props and cosplay. So here we go.
I started off by removing the hand grip with a flathead screwdriver. It comes off pretty easy. Then you want to remove the glossiness with some sandpaper, so I just sanded it down for a little while with a lower grit sandpaper so it's not too coarse. Now you want it to have a smoother finish so it looks good when you paint the gun. And next you can sand down the seam. You might want to do this if you don't want to fill it with bog filler or Mod Podge. You can just sand it down and it'll look relatively flat. And just make sure that you sand down all of the flat surfaces, just anywhere that's glossy, in between the trigger, trigger guard and all that sort of area. Also, even though the hand grip area underneath the actual hand grip is going to be covered up, you might want to sand it down just so if you're going to glue it down, the glue will adhere better. Make sure you really sand down the hand grip and any areas where your hand will be touching. Another area that's good to sand down is the barrel. If you pull back the slide and just try and sand it as good as you can, that area is going to have a lot of friction with the slide and you want to make sure that the paint will stay on. Make sure you really lightly sand down the hand grips. You don't want to remove the texture or make it look too smooth. After you sand down the gun, you just want to go over it with a cloth. A multi-fiber cloth is probably best, and you just want to clean off any dust from sanding. I was looking around for the clip to sand it, and I actually found it in the holster that you can buy from Backyard Blasters as well. It's pretty cool looking, so I thought I'd show you guys. I'll just get all of the sides because it will have friction with the gun, and you just want to make sure the paint will stick. Now moving on to the spray painting, you should usually start with primer. It's just going to adhere best to the gun and it will help the other paint stick over the top of it. I used Rust-Oleum Painter's Primer. It's really good for props. How I spray paint my props is I hold the can about 20 to 30 centimeters away and you do short bursts with the paint and make sure that you don't hold it in one area for too long. You just want to do swift motions across the area that you're painting. I should also mention, make sure you wear a protective mask while you're spray painting because you just don't want to breathe in the fumes. And always spray paint in a well ventilated area, preferably outside. What I like to do sometimes is get the outer areas first with the spray paint and then go over the larger area in the middle. Also, you might want to wear a glove, especially if you're going to be handling the object that you're painting. The bog filler that I used is a two-part thing, so you mix the two parts and then it starts reacting and you want to apply it as quickly as possible before it hardens. If you don't want to use bog or you just don't have access to it, then you can use Mod Podge, which is easier to find. You can find it in craft stores and stuff like that. Some people like Mod Podge better because you don't have to sand it down afterward. You just smooth it out as you apply it and then it sets as it is. Here I just went over all of the seams and I filled in some of the screw holes just to flatten everything out and make it as realistic as possible. Make sure you seal any seams that are going to be showing, including at the bottom of the clip. You just want to cover everything up so it's flat. After leaving the bog to set for a few minutes, you just want to go over it with some sandpaper and smooth it all out. And this is a feature that I really like with bog, is that you smooth it out yourself afterwards so you get the cleanest result possible. If you intend to paint the bullets, then make sure you sand those down as well. The tip is actually rubber, so you can't really sand that, but make sure you sand all the plastic. Now here you see me spray painting in a spray booth which has a vacuum at the back, and it's really good for if you need to paint indoors. I actually rested the gun on a piece of paper so I could turn it as I was spray painting. This meant that I could get around all of the sides in one go. When I spray painted the bullets, I put them on a piece of paper with some tape and set them upright so I could get around them and move them on the paper and they'd all get an even coat. If you're spray painting small objects like the bullets, you want to have something to hold them in place so that they don't blow away when the spray paint hits them. As you can see, I did the same paper thing with the clip, which is really handy. After the bullets are dry, you want to lie them on their side so you can spray paint the bottom of them. After the spray paint dries, you want to hand paint the bullets. I used Rub and Buff, which is a wax-based paint, and it's really good for a metallic finish. It looks really awesome once it's dried. I used the Antique Gold Rub and Buff. You can get it from craft stores. It's really good paint to have for painting props. You can use a brush, or if you're wearing gloves, you can apply it with your finger. Just make sure that you apply even coats, and also make sure you remember to get the bottom of the bullet. The rubber tip of the bullet is a real hassle to paint, especially if you're going to be handling it at any point. As you can see, the paint came off on my finger quite a bit. For the tip of the bullet, I used a metallic copper paint, which looks really good once it's dry. These sort of paints are really good to have because they look great on props, and you can find this type of paint at any craft store, which is really handy. For adding detail to the hand grip, I decided to use a brown burnt umber paint, which is really good for a wash. You can use it to simulate dirt or grease, the sort of stuff that gets stuck in the grip or the creases in a gun. The idea when applying a wash is to get into all of the gaps, and then you want to wipe off the excess that's like on the surface. If the surface paint isn't coming off when you're wiping it, you just want to wet the cloth you're using a little bit and then try wipe over it again. You just want to water down the paint so you can get it in all of the gaps and any place that would build up dirt and stuff. The paint brand that I mostly use is Reeves. It's easy to find in New Zealand at most craft stores. All you need to do is just get some paint on the brush, and then you want to dry it off on a paper towel or something just to get as much of the paint off as possible, so then you can apply it really lightly to the surface of the hand grip. Make sure not to apply it on too thick. Have in mind what sort of colour and what finish you want, so you can adjust if you want to apply the coat thicker or lighter, depending on the finish that you want. You may want to apply a wash to the gun, but it's not really necessary and it doesn't show that well on the black surface of the gun. I attempted it anyway and found that it didn't really show up well. After you apply the wash, you just want to let it dry for a few seconds and then get like a multi-fiber cloth and just wipe it down, or you can even use a paper towel. For dry brushing the gun itself, I used Silverleaf Rub and Buff, which was really good. It just gives a nice metallic finish, makes it look like some of the paint of the gun has scraped away and revealed the metal underneath. How I dry brushed my gun is that I made sure the bristles of the brush were spread out, and then I applied it really lightly across the edges where it would scrape or get worn over time. What I did next was fill in the part at the top of the slide where the shells are ejected after firing a bullet. So I just completely filled that in with silver paint. This area of the gun is meant to be indented. If you go over the edges a little bit, it might ruin that effect. So you just want to go over it again with some black paint around the edges and make sure it looks smooth. You can go a little bit overboard with painting the clip because it does get scraped a lot sliding in and out of the gun, so it'll look quite natural. When you're finished painting the gun and you're at a place that you're happy with it, then you want to put the hand grips back on and just take a good look at it and see what you think. Check how it looks on camera if you are using it for a film like I was. As you can see, the slide and the clip still work and they don't get scratched too much. Overall, I'm really happy with the gun and I quite like how it turned out. I didn't record this on camera, but you might want to go over it with a semi-gloss clear spray paint to seal the paint, and this will protect it from wear and scratching so you don't lose the paint that you've spent time applying to the gun. Thank you for watching. I had a great time painting this gun, and if you want to see more, I actually do have the revolver from Backyard Blasters, which I'd be happy to paint next. I've got a lot of spare time coming up, so yeah, I did want a project to work on. Just let me know in the comments below.